Hey, what's up, you guys? Whew, just not feeling good today. But I am trying to make something to eat. I was supposed to make deviled eggs on Easter, never got around to it. I was completely exhausted by the time we got to Easter Sunday from work all week and going through. Sometimes it just all piles up at once. I'm sure somebody can relate to that. I was hormonal all of last week, which really puts me in a bad state mentally, emotionally, physically. Aches, pains, chills, just all that kind of crap. Plus, I had been having excruciating back problems for about 2 weeks. All that was kind of happening at once. The weekend came on strong. It's very crazy busy in the restaurant industry on Friday and Saturdays. Saturday is like my Friday, the end of my week. I'm off Sunday and Monday. And my family gathered up on Saturday. I didn't get to go to that. And I'm like, Sunday I hope to be well rested and feeling great. That's just not going to happen. Not at this age, not coming off of a week of double split shifts on my feet in food service. By the time I got to Easter Sunday and, got out of the job on Saturday night, by the time I get off at 9:30, 10 o'clock, well, I can't just come home from working that hard and that much adrenaline and just pass out and go to sleep. No, it doesn't work like that. You got to wind down. You got to get something to eat, get a shower. By the time you do all that, it's 12 or 1 o'clock. Only a couple hours. Walk your dog, for God's sake. Have some kind of, and then I'm going to want to sleep all the way till time to go to work the next day at 10 to make sure I get my full at least 7 or 8 hours to feel completely rejuvenated and healed and able to do the job. But I don't like to do that. I like to get up at 7 or at 6:30 or 7 in the morning so that I can have some kind of life before I go to work. So I can walk my dog, so I can have some coffee, so I can think straight, so I can tend to other things that need to be thought about or done, or instead of just sleeping till right time to walk out the door. So that's just how it is, y'all. Y'all know how that grind goes. And so by the time we got to Easter Sunday this week, I really woke up feeling like a truck had hit me. And I got off late the night before, and I was exhausted from the week. And, it was kind of disappointing to me, though. I kind of resented it. But I'm real quick to try to get myself out of those negative states. I acknowledge them. They're fucking real, and I have a right to them, but I don't like to stay there too long. So, I got on up, went about my business, and just have to make the best of it. And it, turned out on Easter Sunday, I went to visit my son, my older son. He was the only one off work. Everybody else had stuff to do. We just couldn't coordinate it this year. When everybody's working and living in different places, and it's just not like it used to be. When I had my place and my car, and it's just different now. We're all kind of separated, but it's okay. We're making do with what we've been handed, and I'm very grateful for the times that we do get to spend together, no matter how we have to put it together. And my sister has been very helpful in that as well, coming to get us and drive people and host things at her place, and I really appreciate that, But anyway, Easter Sunday, I just woke up exhausted, and I was kind of disappointed in myself. I expect me to be like me, like I've always been, like the person I was before all these things happened to me, before I lost my home, my car, went through, all the chaos and tragedy and stuff with Chad, and then ended up losing Chad, not only to our weird breakup and separation before his passing, but then him passing away. And, the me before all of this sorrow and the sorrows of my family and their grief and, losing brothers and siblings, just complete chaos and tragedies for 5 or 6 years straight, it seemed like. The me before all of that, the me that had my place and always cooked dinner for everybody and gathered the family up, and we were all together. at least a couple times a month. I expected me to bounce out of that bed on Sunday morning and, have everything clean and the coffee made and have dinner all going and, treats planned out for everybody. And, which I have my little moped that I'm very grateful for right now. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't have a car. If I had a car, well, there are a lot more places I could go, and it'd be a lot easier to do stuff like that. Make food, deliver it to people, bounce over and see, people and pick other people up. And I'm very limited on what I can do right now, okay? But again, it's just one of those tug of war, mixed feelings, take the good with the bad kind of things, okay? So I was kind of disappointed in myself, but I had to calm down and I had to remind myself to get back in a state of gratitude, to take the day for what it is, do what you can with this day. No, you may not have your home right now. No, you didn't get to go down with the rest of the family at the gathering this weekend. You had to work. This is a part of it. This is a part of getting back, get your life rebuilt. It's a part of the sacrifice you have to make. Part of the consequences of things. It's part of a lot of stuff, just part of the process. And I had to just get on up and make the best of Sunday. And I was very excited because I was going to get to see my older son, who I hadn't seen in a while, and my grandson, Quincy. And that we did, but I have high expectations of myself. And I'm having to adjust to midlife. I'm having to adjust to aging. I'm having to adjust to being on an entirely different timeline, completely different freaking dimension of consciousness than I was on back then, and the person I was back then, and what life has given me now, right now, in this day and age, this moment in time. And I'm having to really adjust to that and work with myself. And it's been a big, long process, and I've been steadily making progress, finding my way again, my purpose, because that's what I identified with. Mother, cook, gatherer, having the home, doing all those things. And, all those things feel like my identity. Like I'm supposed to be in here busting ass. And it's hard living with my mom. We're in a very cramped space. There's no room in her kitchen. It is just anything to do with being the woman I once was and how I lived and expressed myself and cooked and cleaned and anything entertained, decorated. That is all over now, living in here with her. That all changed. It's just, I had to shut down all that. And it was so weird for me. It was so weird for me to lose that part of my identity. And in some ways, I think God put me in that position for a reason. I do think there's reasons for everything. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, powers that be. I think I was placed in this situation for some different reasons, that some things I needed to face, some things I needed to learn to let go of. A lot of spiritual growth going on in this last year and a half or so, okay? So yeah, I'm adapting, adjusting. So Sunday I got on up, and like I said, we went to see my older son, and we were so grateful for him, he and his girlfriend having us. We had pizza, and we got to visit with my little grandson and watch him hunt Easter eggs, and I was very happy with that. And I went on about the day, but I still felt kind of like a train wreck because I was exhausted. I felt really half put together and miscombobulated and just, but we had a great time there, got home, and it was late that night. I started feeling kind of queasy, and I had already been up. I wrote about this earlier. I had already been up for 2 nights in a row with the arm pain, the nerve pain, keeping me up at night because of that massage. Okay. And I knew what it was. I figured out what it was, and thank God it went away. So yeah. So anyway, I went on with the weekend, but damn, and then the next day I had to get some shopping and business done on my next day off. And I was still quite tired. My room piles up for an entire week and a half while I'm working and hormonal. I don't do I just have no energy. So that had to be caught up on. Everything was piled up and disorder. I'm just like, God damn, 2 days isn't enough. It's like, how in the hell? It's like sometimes you have to get everything done at once in those 2 days. And then I started feeling super queasy and sick late Sunday night into Monday morning. And then it went away for a while, and I thought, well, I don't know if it was something I ate or nerves or what the hell. I got cold chills, and then it got worse last night. Um, so, and today it's kind of coming and going, so I don't know what that's about. I'm kind of trying to push through it. I am off work today because of it. I just didn't feel right. But I'm about to make some deviled eggs because I didn't get to make them on Sunday. And I wanted to make some for my family or for my mom, whoever wants some. I'm trying to push myself to get back into the little projects and things I used to enjoy and I used to do. I bet y'all are wondering what this is, huh? I've been having it hanging here on my back this whole time. This is my new best friend. This is my buddy. I am in love with this thing. And I really do want to carry it everywhere with me. To work, wherever. Okay? Because I told y'all about the excruciating back pain I've been having. And yes, I've had the same chiropractor 20 years. He's wonderful. He helps me a lot. I do occasionally go to get a massage there at the same place, massage therapy. The last one was a little too deep and it caused some nerve pain and whatnot. But mostly it's been me, not their fault. It's been me over the years neglecting my back, bad posture, sleeping horribly, passing out with my neck a certain way, just not taking care of my back and, just too much lifting and, it was my fault. And so, I've gotten, very strict on the awareness of my back, my posture, take care. I wrote about it on my Facebook page. I ordered a new back massager, which is wonderful, has a bunch of changing heads, but it's not quite the strength that I expected or wanted. Chad had one that was massive. It reached all the way down your back. And it would knock your ass across the room. The motor was that strong. This motherfucking massage stick. When I say you're going to feel it, you felt it. That's what I need. And I loved his and it helped my back and I wanted that one, but that's not what I got. But the one I have, it'll do until I can get a better one. But, okay. Not only do I have the other little vibrating massage wand, it's got a pretty decent motor on it. And I got all kinds of icy hot and ibuprofen. I got Epsom salts. There's so many things you can invest in for your back. But this I found at the Five Below store. I had never been in there until this past weekend. Went in for the first time. And I thought, it never occurred to me that a store like that would have any type of decent back pain relief or massage wands or anything like that. But I stand corrected. I have never been so glad in my life that I got this. And it was $5. Okay? And this right here is almost better than any vibrating massage motor wand, massage chair. Okay, well, the massage chairs are pretty damn good. They have one at the mall that I go sit in every couple of weeks. And I love going to the massage therapist whenever I get a chance. I'm very blessed to be able to do that. If not, I'd be in a hell of a lot of pain. But when you have to take it up on yourself to, in the in-betweens and you need some back pain relief, people often see me, whether it's at work, at the house, they see me for years getting up on the corner of a wall, right? Where the hard point of the wall and just, rubbing my back, almost like a cat. And people are like, what are you doing? Are you itching? And no, it's not that at all. It's that I'm trying to pop the knots out of my back, those horrible tension knots that you get from sleeping wrong, from standing on your feet all day, working. And oftentimes they're in spots you can't reach, like your middle back, right up under your shoulder blades. Lots of different little tension knots and Sometimes I just get a lot of pain in that middle back section and I can't reach it. So, yada yada, I do that, whatever, and a little stretching. I do whatever I can to get the relief. But this tool right here, oh my God. Oh my God. I am so glad. This one, I think it's better than all of them. You hook it over your back, right? And it kind of hurts if you press in, but don't press in right there too hard. But you can. And by God, that motherfucking little ball digs in, okay? And it's rubber, so it does what it's supposed to. It has some good traction. It's not that plastic that slides too much. Trigger point wand is what this is called, and boy, it means it. You can hook it like that and either press down right here and pull it over whatever back part of your back is sore, whatever knot to pop. Or you can just do it like this. You can hook it over your back like that and dig in. Oh, and press down and pull up really hard. Ooh, and it doesn't wear you out. It's not hard to do because it's so long. And it's very durable, tough. I mean, hard. You're not gonna bend this thing. This motherfucker is no weakling right here. This is the product. I am not kidding you. In fact, I'd like to get everybody in my family that has a sore back one of these. Oh. Just hook it in. Up under those shoulder blades. Wherever you need to. Oh, my Lord. And it just pulls that knot right out. Yeah, this is a great thing. So this is my new buddy. I love it. It helps me a lot. Anyway, I don't know. I've just been jibber jabbering. I guess I'm just trying to take my mind off things. I'm a little worried about my brother. My mom and him have been kind of going through some stuff, and I don't want to get too much into it. Oh God, I'm hoping to feel better tomorrow. What are you barking at, dog? Let me go get my coffee cup. I guess I should take y'all with me. I don't want to get too much into anything really depressing, but yeah, people are aware of the fact that my mother's house burned about 3 years ago, and it's been needing repairs. And, you know, she owns that property, but at almost 80 years old, she's being forced to rent an apartment because she doesn't have the money to repair that house. And she's old. She's almost 80 years old. She doesn't want to sell it right now. Her whole life is in that house. It is in a lot of disarray. She's not ready to just go in and throw everything in storage and just sell the house. You know, even though I feel like that's what people want to push her into. I'm not saying whether that's wrong or right. If I were in her shoes and her age, I'd probably just unload myself of the burden of it and take the money and go. But to my mother, it's a different story. It means a lot to her. She's not ready for that. And I don't feel like she should be pushed out of that property. I don't feel like she should be harassed constantly. And I understand homeowners have to keep their home up to code and all that shit. But what she found out is not only to move back into her home, not only would she need to repair the fire damage and the water damage, the ceilings and whatnot, but totally have the electricity redone and brought up to scratch. I mean, God knows what the price tag would be. $40,000, $50,000 worth of work. I don't know. I'm not a contractor, but I can guarantee it's expensive. And there is no money for that. She doesn't have that kind of savings. You know, she's retired. She's living on very little. Now she's having to pay rent on an apartment while owning a property and pay property taxes on that property. And they're all over her about fixing that place up. Code is out there constantly. They're trying to take her to court. You know, my brother's been trying to help her all he can, but it's no secret. He has his struggles. He's been struggling really, really hard, and everybody knows that. Well, they're supposed to go to court over that this week, and I'm just beside myself about it. And for me personally, I just feel kind of caught up in the wash. I really should be living in my own place, tending to my own business. I have been through absolute hell and back, and the least little bit of distraction to my mental or my anything, I've been that fragile, okay? I'm trying my best to crawl back up from a really bad place. I've been doing wonderful. I've been blessed. You know, keep going to work, hold down my job, keep saving, and just keep growing from here. It's not that I don't care about my family. It's not that at all. It's not that I don't love them. I'm really worried about this situation, but it's that I don't know how to solve it for them. And it's not something you can really intervene in. Now, as far as the house and all that, I don't know. But the stuff that goes on between my mother, my brother, him needing help, and the circles and cycles that just go on and on and on. I try to stay out of it for my own mental health and sanity, and there's reasons why. Okay? Now, people who've never experienced stuff like that before, they might not know how to handle it. They might be judgmental. They might have, they don't know what the hell they're talking about because they haven't lived through it. But what's going on today, we're kind of concerned because, I probably wouldn't really think much of it because, well, we're siblings and, we don't keep up with each other every single day, my brother and I. We love each other, but we stay off of each other's toes and out of each other's way. And it's just kind of how it is. We watch our boundaries with each other, and that's how it's always been. But he and my mom have a different kind of relationship, and I don't know. We're both worried, but apparently he's missing. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Usually he's out in his truck somewhere, or doing what he does, staying where he stays, and he comes in and out of here quite a bit. But I don't know if it's even been 24 hours yet, but he was supposed to meet her back at the house yesterday, and he never showed back up. And she said he was in quite a state, and I know he's been in quite a state because I have spent some time with him over the last couple weeks. We've had some very long heart-to-heart talks. And so I don't know. I woke up queasy as hell this morning. I was up and down all night, just not feeling good at all. Sick to my stomach, couldn't stay out of the bathroom. I didn't know if it was something I ate or my nerves. And, it does kind of concern me because a lot of times when something has happened to somebody, but it usually kicks in about a month in advance for me. It was a month before my father and a month before Chad that I started having severe panic attacks. Everyday anxiety attacks, and something is happening, something's coming, and it did. And I don't know. I just hope my brother's okay. I hope he's somewhere safe. But my mom has gotten pretty concerned. And for me, it's not that out of the ordinary for Joe to just take off and disappear and not want to be fucked with. That's just who he is. That's how he is. He likes to be alone a lot. He does what he does. But my mom, she seems to think there's something wrong, this time. Or it's not like him that he was supposed to come right back. Well, because they have this whole case this week about this house and the court, the city coming down on them, and he's been trying, part of helping her. And so she feels like it's kind of abnormal for him not to come right back. They went and bought a bunch of materials and nobody's seen him. Not his friends, which I don't know any of his friends. I guess, she's called, but apparently nobody's seen him yet. And so I'm just hoping and praying he shows up safe and that eventually my brother can get some help and some peace that he needs. What do you do? What do you do when it's just one after another, after another, after another person everywhere you look? It's that kind of suffering and turmoil and chaos. And you just kind of feel right in the middle of everything, like you can't escape it, yet you love them, yet if you don't keep your fucking head front and center and on your business, you won't make it. What do you do? It's been kind of like that all my life, but I'm in a much stronger place now, mentally and emotionally. I have learned how to walk around this. I think that's part of my life path. I have been put in some of the damnedest of situations and had to walk through them and learn to navigate them and learn to transmute the energy around me, learn to cope in a positive way, the most positive way I can, and not self-destruct somehow. And I don't know. So it's just kind of worrisome, and I do feel kind of off about it. I love my brother, and he's got a big, big spot in my heart. You know, it's been a hard road with him. And just because we don't hang out all the time and just because I have to put boundaries on him, it doesn't mean I don't love him. Okay? Same thing. A lot of that shit happened with me and Chad. Chad and I. But, you know, it's weird. I've had to practice a lot, and I have failed at it many times. Learning loving detachment. I have gotten up again with it and tried again and failed many, many times over the years, fallen back into my ego and anger and, wanting them to do what I think is right and wanting them to make the damn changes and, well, fuck you then, and I've been through all the sides and all the angles, and loving detachment is a very hard thing to learn. But I finally, got there with certain people in certain ways. And, sometimes you really do just have to make your peace with people, even people you love, people you're related to, people you want to be around every day. Sometimes you just have to make your peace, even though you love them with all your heart. You know that you can spend very little time with them, and that if you're around them too much, your energy is going to be drained, or it's going to start getting aggravated or stepped on, or, you're only going to be able to deal with them so much. The energy just changes when they come around. That's what addiction will do to people. And that leads me to discussing dark entity attachments, something I wrote about on my Facebook just a few minutes ago. It was about addicts and people hurting us and all these different kinds of things. And this woman was saying, I realize now that they're not responsible for that, that is spiritual warfare. That is a spiritual attack upon me, upon them. And I agreed wholeheartedly. Okay. But I wanted to discuss the balances of that, because there are always balances. You can't just go saying that. Okay. You can't just say that, because there goes your damn credibility, right? When you say, that's like basically saying, well, the devil made them do it. Oftentimes people are not going to take you seriously anymore. And oftentimes people don't really trust the judgment of people who, really seriously think that way without any other, and she was saying, well, I understand they're not really accountable. They're not really responsible, because these are dark entity attachments attacking them, spiritual warfare attacking them and working through them to get to us. And it's just, and it took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not going to say I believe shit. I'm going to say I fucking know it. I've felt it. I've experienced it. Attacking me, attacking somebody I fucking love, that I was with day after day, year after year. I've seen it. I have felt it. I've had to deal with it, okay? I know what it is. But I'm going to say this about the responsibility and accountability part. You can't just go saying that kind of shit. Like, oh, well, they're not responsible. It wasn't really them. Because then people are definitely going to start to question our judgment and our reasoning and be like, oh, okay, well, if you're a person that really can't set boundaries and you can't set limitations, people, they oftentimes don't trust that. Like, well, what else would you do? What else would you let happen? That's why I have wanted to work on my personal boundaries for years and getting comfortable setting personal boundaries. And of course, raising 2 kids, I had to be a person that could set boundaries and teach them to set boundaries and respect boundaries and all that good shit. Just boundary, 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 okay? But, because that's a thing. As empathic and compassionate and forgiving and spiritual and out there on planet 9 to the 5th power level consciousness, spinning around on different timelines as I am, okay, I know there are balances, okay? And we live here on earth in this day and time, and we have to have both. Critical thinking, reasoning. We have to use all the sides of our brain with a nice balance, Okay. And I don't really do one extreme or the other. It could be more this, it could be more that, it could be both of this fucking thing simultaneously going on. Okay. So, but in our society and, the way we have to wheel and deal here on earth, naturally, to me, even the most spiritual of people, even the most open-minded of consciousness, I'm still going to question if you let too much go. If you're a person that just constantly lays down and allows yourself to be stomped on, that you can't say no to save your life, that you're going through, oh my God, all kinds of hell, and you're not even attempting to learn to set a boundary. You're too afraid of not being liked or accepted, or it's just mean to say no, or I just can't bring myself to put a stop to this. Okay. I've gone through that with my mother for years, not standing up, being afraid of my father and not standing up. And, eventually people are going to question that judgment. If you can't set boundaries and you just kind of act flippant about what goes on to that degree without any balance to it, any accountability, any better reasoning than that, well, naturally people are going to start to question, well, shit, I don't know if I trust you or your judgment, or if you would let that go and you think that way, then what would you let happen to a child? Or what would that's a thing. So, of course, we have to be very careful how we say things and how we think about things. And, there's balances to everything. So I'm never going to say, oh, they weren't responsible for that. They weren't accountable for that. The devil made them do it. It was just some dark force. That would really be invalidating to a lot of victims. That would also really make me look kind of fucked up, and it would get me questioned and discredited. And so, again, you have to be careful about that. And I just don't think that way. I think with the balance, okay, that's why I have to be very careful when I talk about these spiritual things and explain them, because I'm very highly into them. And I'm not going to even use the word believe. I'm sick of that word. I just know. I know what I know. I've seen it. I've felt it, and I've fucking dealt with it. I don't care what people think. I don't care if they've seen it, dealt with it or not. I know I have. Okay. And the thing is, yes, I've talked about dark entity attachments before. And I wrote in depth on my Facebook today about thoughts on dark entity attachments and who is more susceptible to them. What state, do you have to be in? Why does this happen to us? Why does it happen to some people and not others? And all of these things. And I wrote about how I learned to cope with this, what I feel like most definitely are spiritual attacks, spiritual warfare, dark entity attachments, which are basically thought forms, dark, hopeless, helpless, life-crushing thought forms that come on us and build and build and brew and brew. Okay, so if it's a little too flaky sounding for you, just break it down in literal terms like that. Thought forms, dark entity attachments, thought forms. I'm not talking about boogeymans. I'm not talking about stupid shit. Okay, we get in a weakened state, whether it's depression, grief. Mine is premenstrual dysmorphic disorder, which is much like having a horrible mental state for about 8 days a month, every month. My hormones really screw with my head. It is the lowest, most helpless, hopeless. You hear all kinds of negative things that either came from your early childhood trauma or that old programming or stems from that, and then dark entity attachments, negative thought forms, they spin and grow and vortex around you. And it just builds in the mind and builds on and builds on. And different energies. To me, I have felt it working through different people. I am more open and susceptible to it at that time. I'm more confused at that time. I'm more vulnerable. I'm a lot weaker. And it's so much harder for me to fight at that time. And when I say fight is not the point. A lot of people fight. A lot of people fight it. They try, you know, or at least attempt to fight it off. But it's how you fight. It's the tools you use to fight that shit off, okay? That's going to make or break the whole situation. So, what I'm going to say about accountability and responsibility for our actions, you're damn right. Even though I am very spiritual, and yes, I can talk to you all day long about dark entity attachments and energies and thought forms and all of these different things that I have felt, seen, and dealt with. But I will also say at the exact same time, I hold myself responsible and accountable for my actions, no matter what is trying to attach onto me or not, no matter how deeply I'm grieving, no matter what I've lost in my life, no matter how angry I am, no matter what, I have to hold myself accountable. Unless you have been certified, diagnosed, absolutely to where you can't be accountable for your actions with a type of mental illness which requires medication or supervision, up to that point, okay, I personally feel like we're accountable. But I'm going to tell you where that accountability and responsibility starts. I don't necessarily trip on the person while they're high or drunk or depressed or in a very weakened state, a weak place of being hopeless, helpless, defenseless. The shit you hear when you're that vulnerable, the shit you hear when you're down there, that you're worthless, that you're never going to do anything, that you might as well just give up, that everybody hates you, that the shit you hear when you're down there. And if you had childhood trauma, depending on how severe that was, all that compiles on and it just grows in this massive vortex. And mine is relatively minor compared to some of my siblings, my brothers, my partner, and a lot of predominantly male friends that I've had in the past. They suffer at what seems like 1,000 times harder because there is so much stigma on the men. There is so much, depending on where they came from, what they've learned and been taught, there is so much pressure on them to be tough and I'm hard. I'm not scared. I don't feel. There's just so much there that they feel ashamed, toxic shame all of their life for even having fucking emotions and feelings. And it's really hard for them to work on this stuff. Back to the point though. Dark entity attachments, yes. I was really moved by what this woman wrote, and I posted it on my Facebook because I feel the same way. I absolutely feel the same way. I have seen that battle and I have felt that battle. I have felt it all over me, like it was not coming from me, like it was some source, some energy from outside myself. Sometimes we have to stop, especially as empaths. Most humans have some empathy. Some of us can tap greater into that empathy. Just depends on the human being. Some of us are super, super energetically sensitive and can read energy and feel shit that we don't even want to be feeling, need to be feeling, none of that. But think about it. As you walk through your day, you walk down the sidewalk and a man and woman are fighting. Whoop. You're on your way to work or whatever. Whoop, you just picked up some of that damn energy. Whoop, oh, fuck. A couple of words got in your brain. Oh, shit. You walk on down the sidewalk, you go into the gas station, you pick up a cup of coffee, whatever the hell, get you something for work. There's something going on in there. Somebody's crying. Somebody's in a fight. Somebody lost their purse or somebody's getting shot or I don't know. Every day, all day, you get to the job. This one's got an attitude. This one's over here having anxiety. This one is, all damn day. We are picking up residue and energy, emotion, and shit from other people, okay? And sometimes that shit is powerful and it gets in us and it sticks to us. And think about, by the end of the fucking day, by the time you make it home, how drained you are. You know, that's why we have to be aware of our energy and other people's energy. And sometimes that shit is dark, really dark, and it can feed on our darkness, our unresolved traumas, our pain, the shit that still has the ability to trigger us. That's why we have to be aware of it and work on those things, okay? So to bring it all full circle, again, we have to be careful how we word it. And I don't care if that sounds pansy ass or cliche or what it sounds like. I like to validate people's feelings. I don't like to fucking invalidate other people's feelings at all. I like to be aware of them and be as considerate as I possibly can. And I don't think that's pansy ass or woke or none of that shit. But, you know, we do have to be careful how we say things. And for me, I go with what I feel is most authentic in my soul. That's for me personally. I'm not asking anybody to believe this, to follow it, to practice it, nothing. I'm just talking. That's all. These are my personal feelings and thoughts. But I have felt that wholeheartedly, what that woman said. And that's why I feel their pain so deeply. I feel their battle so deeply, especially the really severe addicts and people battling depression and mental disorders. And I've seen it all my life. I've been surrounded by it with my family members and loved ones and certain friends and even within myself to a degree. But it matters. Your coping tools, your coping mechanisms, that is what makes the difference. That is what matters, okay? I feel their pain very deeply, though. And while they're in that state, it's not so much, why'd you do that while you were da-da-da-da-da? And, you know, I'm pissed off at you because you did such and such and such and such. Okay? It's not so much that while you were drunk or while you were high. It's not so much that as, personally, I feel like you were fighting one hell of a fucking battle. You were in and out, and I knew when it was you, and I knew when it wasn't you. And oh my God, I went through this with Chad so much. For about an hour or two every morning, it was him. And then he'd be gone, and it wasn't him. There was something in and out of him that completely changed his personality, that was more tormentative, had a tormentative streak and and I know psychologically, yes, a lot of that was childhood stuff, unresolved traumas, yada, yada, yada. But we're talking about the spiritual components of it, and that's what it was. I've seen it. I've seen it all over him. What I saw scared me to death. I fought with that thing for years. Whatever the fuck was consuming him and draining him and beating him down and holding him in such bondage. And I watched my brother battle the same fucking thing. Okay? The shit I have seen has been terrifying. And that's why a lot of times I was more forgiving. That's why a lot of times I would just let it go. And I would tolerate certain things and let's move on to the next day, because I know that in your deepest soul, that wasn't you. And the reason you got this way, though, let me get to that point before this cuts off, is fucking unresolved trauma, core wounds, old programming, bad coping skills, or none at all. No positive input from anywhere. Just alcohol, just drugs, just escapism, just numbing out of body. Yes, I said out of body. So what's that mean? If we are already in a low state, then going even lower into even lower vibration, which is where the hard drugs and alcohol and other coping vices that are dark, negative, or that help us get out of reality, out of body, takes us into an even lower fucking vibration and frequency. And that is the open door. That is the lowest one can go. It is like a portal that they can just walk right in, that they can just take over. There is no way to fight from that state. There is no way to protect oneself in that state, reaching for those substances and toxic ass coping mechanisms, which a lot of people do, to seek relief, to seek to get out of this. A lot of times, that's why I feel like alcoholics need protection. And I'm talking spiritual protection. Yes, they all need crutches. They all want enablers. They all this, that, and the other psychologically. But spiritually, they need protection. They need somebody really strong in their spirituality, because they are fucking being devoured. When they are a severe alcoholic like that, day and night and day and night, you have no idea what I have seen. Okay? So, oftentimes, that's why I would just try my best to let it go, back off, save space for Chad when he returned the next morning, when he sobered up, and not tried my best for years not to take it too personal. The belligerence and obnoxiousness and tormentative streaks and the shit that he would go through and put me through while drinking, while drunk. But it didn't stop me from being hurt, and it didn't stop me from being angry, and it didn't stop me from, yes, holding his ass accountable. Of course I did. But I would wait, of course, until he was sober and we could talk it through, and I would confront things and talk about things with him. It's a really difficult fucking thing to go through, to see another human go through. Okay? And here's another thing. We humans, we always want definitive. We want answers now. We need to choose one or the other. We need to be decisive. Hey, I get it. It's really hard to live in the uncertainty, isn't it? It's really hard for we humans to hang out in the possibilities, the unknown, the uncertainty. But sometimes in the abstracts, but sometimes that's all you can do. That's where the answers really are. And there was this saying once that really got to me. It was, live in the answer. No, live in the question, because the answer might kill you right now. I don't know, for whatever that's worth. Live in the question, because the answer might kill you. I don't know. That kind of sounds like denial to me too, but whatever. You can interpret it a million different ways. Use it how you wish. So, the dark entity attachment, where was I? I got to get to these deviled eggs, y'all. Oh, I kind of had to be in this space of, I had to learn a lot. I had to grow a lot. It expanded my consciousness a lot. And yes, I had a lot of cognitive dissonance going back and forth between wanting my rightful respect and boundaries and not to be mistreated and psychologically jerked around. And it's almost impossible living with a 24/7 alcoholic. Something's going to happen. It's just, especially if they have mental and emotional issues unresolved, and you're always having to work on and deal with that too. But, I would bounce back and forth, yes, from anger and hurt and, hey, boundaries and trying to set and, sometimes withdrawing and having to leave even. And, but I never lost that place of love for him and understanding and empathy, because I knew at the same time that he was fighting basically fighting for his life, mentally, spiritually. It was all over him. It was consuming him to death. And I fought so hard to get him out. I did. I had to learn a lot. I had to learn about surrender and letting go and so many things. We worked on a lot of things, but damn it. It was right there. This video is going to cut off any second, but I needed to get some of this stuff out. I understood both simultaneously, if that makes any sense. My mind, and psychologists would call that compartmentalizing, call it what you will. It's some of that, and it's some of the spiritual stuff too. Those two kind of bang heads sometimes, but I became very multidimensional. I started to be able to see things in many different dimensions of consciousness and, all that quantum stuff and 50 different realities at once and this and that and the other. But I began to see the good and the bad both at once and the purpose of everything all at once. And even though I was furious most of the time and rattled and traumatized and Jesus Christ, it was so chaotic a lot of the time. Yeah, of course I held people accountable for their actions. What kind of woman would I be, really, if I had been, and some people think I'm weak because I stayed so long. Some people think I'm a weak, codependent, low self-esteem, yada, yada, yada. And I had some of those issues throughout my life. Hell yes, I've had to work hard on those, but that wasn't it. I was very aware of all of those things. And Chad and I both were going through a lot of levels, mastering a lot of levels, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, all at once in those years, okay? And I was setting boundaries. I was learning things as it was confronted, as it was presented to me, as he presented it. As we presented things to each other, we were learning in those moments. That was all growth. It was all necessary. And he assisted me in a lot. Believe it or not, he did. A lot of good things, okay? I wouldn't take any of that back. Even as hurt and as furious as I was at certain times, I wouldn't change any of it because I learned so much. I grew so much and I felt the deepest love, not only more for myself. I learned how to set better boundaries than if I had not gone through all of that. Now, everybody might not be meant to have to do all that, but for my particular life path, the way I was born and what I was born into and the particular lessons that I needed to get out of my system, woo boy, he brought them all. Might not be that way for everybody, but it has nothing to do with being weak and codependent. And at the same time, it has to do with confronting all those issues in both he and I. We were both the same. It was just so complex, maddening, and magical, fucking all at once. But the dark entity attachments, yes. So it's both at once if you can grasp that. If you can, everybody's mind is on a different level, but if you can see that or interpret that, or as I saw it, I saw it that way. I felt it that way. And it took me, a long number of years to get to that point, to be able to see things multidimensionally like that and feel things a certain way and the truth of what's kind of going on with people. And hey, that may not be everybody's reality. That's okay. That's okay. But that's what I saw and that's what I felt. And I felt like he was very trapped in that and his soul wanted out. And I tried. I failed a lot. I hurt Chad sometimes just as much as he hurt me. Most of it was reactionary, though, because I loved him so much and I was so afraid of losing him. And all of these things doesn't make it right. I never intentionally hurt him, tormented him, any of that stuff. I didn't always handle things in the best way, but I knew that he was a very tormented soul and a beautiful soul, a loving soul. And I'm grateful for those parts of him that could connect to me, that could come out and be vulnerable, even childlike if he wanted to. And I would love to do a video on that kind of shit too, the inner child and being childlike, and how not everything is always just a psychological problem to be solved. Oftentimes when we fall in love, it is a very childlike thing. You'll hear people say, oh, it made me feel like a teenager again. A lot of times that falling in love, deep love, true love, friendship, bonding, closeness, it will bring out the pure, relaxed, innocent, playful part of you, vulnerable. And I love that. And that needed a lot of healing in Chad and myself too. But I'm so glad we could do that together, that we had those times, okay? Along with the chaos, along with the other stuff. But there was something so wrapped around him that he could not get free of it. And I saw it. And the tattoo on his back, it all made sense. We had a lot of conversations. Chad was a very unique individual. There will never be another Chad. Never. He was just so unique and special. And the tattoo on his back, he once explained to me that it was there for protection so that they couldn't sneak up on him. I said, oh, okay. And I knew exactly what he meant. You know, he put it in his own quirky way. I put things in my own quirky way, but I knew exactly what he meant. That energy, that whatever the fuck it is that has been following and stalking and trying to consume many of us since we arrived on this earth, that we didn't even come out having a fighting chance before it was on us, before it was working through our parents, abusing and smothering and controlling and twisting us and trying to snuff our light out before it ever began in this world, okay? I knew exactly what that tattoo was about. Chad and I were very much on the same wavelength. He was very intelligent. He was very deep and very spiritual, but a lot of people didn't know that because he thought people only liked the goofy, drunk, fun, be of service side of him, and that's all he was worth. And he felt like he had to keep up that facade all the time and always be fun and always be drunk and always be silly and joking and or going, doing for everybody. And he had a lot of work to do, a lot of healing to do on his self-worth. And I tried to help him through some of that, that he didn't need to do all that. All he needed to do was just be. To be loved, to be worthy, to be valuable. But there were a lot of things that Chad never got a chance to get in touch with inside of himself. But I'm grateful for the years that we had together because we got in touch with quite a bit. And he was able to release quite a bit. But anyway, I'm gonna end this right now, and I may pop on again later. I hope my brother's somewhere safe and sound. It's just ongoing, watching him suffer and being bound to the same shit Chad was kind of bound to. Very, very much similar situations. And the dark entity attachment shit and spiritual warfare is very fucking real. Believe it if you want. For me, it is. Okay? But yes, in this world, we are responsible for our actions. We cannot just get drunk or high or, well, I was depressed and go stomp all over people, go act carelessly, dangerously, recklessly, put other people in danger, annoy the pants off of them, break their boundaries, trample them. No. Sorry, that's not a good enough excuse because you're an addict or because you were drunk or high. Rewind it back. I'm not necessarily going to get super angry with the person because they are inebriated or intoxicated. Where they are responsible is rewind it back to when they had the choice to cope with it in a different manner. before they opened the door to go into much lower vibration than they were already in. That is where they're accountable, okay? I don't so much get down on the alcohol, drugs, you were drunk, you were high, you knew what the fuck you were doing while you were doing it. I don't buy into that shit that you were drunk, you were high. Oh, yes, the fuck they were. And oh, no, the fuck they weren't completely in their body or their mind. And yes, the fuck, there are a lot of entities and attachments and shit consuming and running in and out of them at all times when they are that low frequency and that open to it and not using the proper protection, proper coping techniques, okay? There are certain things that make us more susceptible and vulnerable to that shit. I have felt it all over me on my own energy and my own body. Once a month, especially when I'm hormonal, with the disorder I have, the anxiety, the panic attacks, all those things, the depression, I have to fight 1,000 times harder for my life, for my sanity, for my well-being. And that is when I'm at my most vulnerable, my weakest. And I feel like I need protection at that time. I really do. And I have to do it for myself. You know, I don't, and same thing with Chad. When he first came to me, he needed protection, spiritual protection. And I knew it. I fucking felt it. And I wasn't trying to hurt anybody or be controlling or any of that, but I knew it. And yeah, I had to put my fucking foot down and wrap him in a bubble and keep him in a safe space to get through that very, very, very vulnerable point. It's just crazy, man. But yes, we are accountable. No matter how drunk or high we get. But our judgment, our reasoning goes out the fucking window. With certain drugs and alcohol, you can hang it up. It changes the brain chemistry. It does all sorts of shit to the brain damage. And it also opens the door for them not to even be home, for them not to even be themselves, to do crazy, reckless, dangerous, even perverse, demented, sadistic shit that they wouldn't normally do. Now you do the math. I've seen it. Them being compelled to do it again and again and again and again, like something is just ravaging them, just compelling them. I've seen it. And yeah. But where I hold it accountable at and say you are responsible, definitely, is you had a choice not to put that shit in your body. You have a choice not to send yourself down into lower vibration than you already are. And the key to all of that for me, if you want to ask, well, what do you do? If you're already in low vibration, and sometimes we cannot keep our frequency high enough all the time. And then there are people who are going to even question that. Well, what's high frequency? What's low vibration and high vibration? What's lower self and higher self? Me and Chad went through this for the first 2 years. We talked about a lot of this stuff. I can talk about it in another video. Break it down however it needs to make sense to you. High vibration, high frequency. Basically what I'm saying is keeping ourselves at optimal functioning strength. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically sound, stable, able to make good decisions, take care of ourselves, doing things we love, thriving, appreciating life. That is high frequency. Loving others, showing empathy and compassion to others, loving ourselves, being merciful to ourselves and caring for ourselves. All those things, that is high frequency. Putting good things in our mind, in our body, when we can. Shit, we're all going to fuck up some. I know I am. We're all going to have low points. But it's what we do when we feel ourselves going into low point. And some go lower than others. Some it's mental illness, it's disorder. Some it's addictions, it's trauma, it's grieving the loss of somebody. All of those things are very low vibrational. You can just feel it. What's low vibrational? What's high vibrational? You can feel it. You feel like you're walking in fucking quicksand. You're so heavy. You're so fucking empty. There is no hope. You don't feel right. You can't, all these things. That's all low density, low vibrational energy, low frequency. And it took me a lot of years to really, really get that, to feel it, for it to deeply resonate with me. So, some of us can't help but go into that for whatever reason sometimes, and we are not self-inflicting it. There's a difference. See, that is another point of accountability to me. To me, personally. I'm not trying to change, convert, conform, control, or influence. I'm just saying, for me personally, I think that's another point of accountability and responsibility. So it's how we handle those situations. It's, number one, becoming aware of ourselves, self-awareness. If you don't have this knowledge, then you can't do these things to protect yourself. I understand that. But at some point, it has to occur to you to look for the knowledge and get it into your mind. Not just grab the next drink, grab the next fucking drug, grab the next porno tape, go out here and screw everybody, or whatever the fuck people do to get their mind out of their mind and out of their body and avoid their feelings and avoid, and it's all super low vibrational. Hell yeah, it's a good time. Sometimes, I get it. Did it for years. Lots of stuff. But you get what I'm saying. When you're already at your lowest and you feel yourself going into a low point, whether it's depression or a disorder, or you're grieving the loss of someone, or whatever the fuck it is, loss of a job, or you're struggling, or it's depression, whatever it is, if you're already low, the worst fucking thing you could ever do is go into lower frequency from there, trying to just to cope with the low frequency you're already on. And that's what happens to people. And once they get that low, they have no protection. There is no fight. They are wide open to be consumed by those thoughts, thought forms and entities and actions and things beyond themselves. It's crazy, but I've seen it. So that's how I deal. I don't always do it perfectly. I suffer a lot. I fight and I battle, and sometimes it feels like a fight for my fucking life, for my sanity, it feels sometimes like I'm just pulling myself through quicksand. Okay. But typically what I have done over the years, especially in my 20s and 30s, while raising my children and whatnot, typically what I would do is, instead of turning to something even more low vibrational to cope with whatever trauma was at hand, or whatever depression, or whatever obstacle or heartbreak was in my path, instead of turning to something even more low vibrational, I would turn to something that would raise my frequency. That is crucial. Raise your frequency. I sound like Sloan Bella from SloanBella.com. Check her out on YouTube. Love Sloan Bella. Raise your frequency. It's not a cliche. It's not bullshit. All that means is, while you're already down there struggling and shit, don't throw gasoline on it. That's basically what it means. And I know that's hard, especially if that's all you've ever known, if that's all you've ever been shown, is here, drink another one, smoke up, do this, go fight somebody, a bunch of stupid shit, go sleep with everybody in town, or, they're not even in their mind and body when they're doing that. That's not even them. So those of you who get connected to a motherfucker like that, well, you didn't really at all. So, I have been there, done it, But I know when they're in and when they're not, and especially methamphetamine. I mean, you can just hang it up. Just forget it. Alcohol is one thing. In and out, sober, a while, and coming into themselves and then out again for a little while. Alcohol is one thing, but alcohol can also bring out a lot of truth in a person, a lot of what they really want to say and be and feel anyway. Not that it's good, because it's also fucking demonic and deranged, and I've seen it. But methamphetamine, on the other hand, fucking forget it. It's cyborg city. That's it. They are not there. It does so many different things to the brain chemistry. They're just not there. And they're just not there. Not so. And I'm really glad that, the whole entire time Chad and I were together, at least 5 years straight. We were together a little over 6 years, almost 7 years, but at least 5.5 to 6 years straight. He was completely off methamphetamine. Well, he was on probation too, but hey, if that's what it took. He drank enough to kill a horse a lot of the time, but he was even off hard liquor most of those years. Just beer. Quite a lot of beer, and his liver had a hard time processing it, so it got him really fucked up all the time and really went through a lot. But I'm glad that, for several years, or I just wouldn't have been able to connect to him at all. Had he been doing meth, there's no way. There's absolutely, positively no way we would have ever been a thing together. It just doesn't work like that. People can't connect when they're on meth. It's, people, I guess some people are different. They think they're connecting, or, they get used to it. Their body kind of gets used to it or whatever. And some people will drink hard alcohol and do meth at exactly the same time because it balances them out. A person like Chad had trouble processing alcohol, so it would tear him to pieces, tear him down. Even though he'd been a lifelong drinker, he couldn't handle his liquor anymore, his alcohol. So in order to keep that whole thing from happening, which put him in a very vulnerable state, when he had me, he wasn't afraid to stay in that vulnerable state. But that wasn't good either, and I couldn't keep doing that. I didn't want to do that to him. It's a whole lot to that story. But if a person who drinks does methamphetamine, it's just this balanced state. You can't really tell that they're even drinking. They're no longer vulnerable. They're more alert. But at the same time, they're not tweaked out of their fucking mind, losing their mind either. It's got this weird balance for them, I guess. Ugh. Alcoholism has a long history with me. I've never been an alcoholic. I drank a lot in my teens and pretty heavily in my 20s and 30s. Went out on weekends and I drank a great deal for 15 years. Never an alcoholic and never something I needed on a daily basis or anything like that. But I have a long history with alcohol and alcoholism, and it being in my family. And my father and Chad's father was an alcoholic as well. We had a lot to deal with, and we had a lot in common. So anyway, the dark entity attachments, the addictions, when you're already in a really low state, you have to reach for something that raises your vibration. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you just don't care. You don't want to hear that shit. You don't think it's going to help. You just want relief. I get that. But you have to fight, and you have to use the right tools to fight that spiritual war, to fight those fucking dark entities off by reaching for things that literally nourish your soul, that bring out your creativity, that bring you closer to family, that bring you closer to your higher power, whatever that is. Go to